Aitzquachil, good morning and welcome to the Daily Tribal Sovereignty Report for Wednesday, August 5th, 2026. I'm your host, Haw-hit-ton. Aaron Thomas is my English name, and every Monday through Friday, decisions are made in Washington, D.C., and Ottawa, and state capitals that impact our land, our air, our water, and our inherent right to self-govern. Today, I'm breaking down news so you know what's happening, why it matters to Indian country, and how it strengthens sovereign power. Before I jump in, let's take a quick second right now and hit that like button, share this episode with your community, and click subscribe or follow. You can stream the Daily Tribal Sovereignty Report wherever you get your podcasts. Now let's get straight into today's top stories. We start today on Capitol Hill. According to Legis 1 and the U.S. Senate Committee on Indian Affairs, lawmakers convened yesterday for a major legislative hearing focused on tribal land restoration and healthcare reform. Top on the docket is Senate Bill 1514, which transfers 72 acres of U.S. Forest Service old growth directly into trust for the Quinault Indian Nation. They are also weighing Senate Bill 3219 regarding Pueblo land transfers in New Mexico, and Senate Bill 1055, which extends the Indian Health Service emergency care notification window past the current 72-hour limit. Now, why does all this matter? Well, returning the land directly restores traditional homelands, and extending Indian Health Service deadlines stops Native patients from getting slammed with unexpected medical bills during health crises. Now, why it matters to sovereignty: reclaiming federal land and streamlining healthcare operations strips away federal red tape, putting control right back into tribal lands. And in other news this morning, turning to state-level accountability and the sacred duty of bringing our ancestors home, according to Native News Online and reports from Assemblymember James C. Ramos, California continues its aggressive oversight of state university systems under CalNAGPRA laws driven by Assemblymember Ramos, the first California Native American elected to the state legislature. Now, ongoing implementation of legislative mandates, including Assembly Bill 389 and Assembly Bill 977, strictly prohibits state universities from using Native American human remains or cultural artifacts for research or teaching, and requires active university tribal consultation to secure designated reburial lands. Now, why does this matter? Decades after federal NAGPRA was enacted, higher education institutions still hold thousands of ancestral remains and sacred objects in collections. This enforcement ensures proper, dignified reburials. And why this matters to sovereignty: ensuring ancestral rights and customs, and making sure that these remains are returned according to these tribal customs asserts the tribe's basic human rights and forces state institutions to honor tribal consultation mandates. The opposition, academic and archaeological research groups, have historically resisted rapid repatriation, arguing that physical collections hold irreplaceable scientific and educational value. Meanwhile, unregulated online betting took center stage in D.C. According to Holland and Knight, Native News Online, and the Senate Committee on Indian Affairs, tribal leaders testified yesterday during a National Senate roundtable on the rapid rise of sports-related prediction markets and event contracts. Highlighting the testimony was Mark Macarro, tribal chairman of the Pechanga Band of Indians and president of the National Congress of American Indians, who forcefully warned lawmakers that commercial trading platforms are illegally offering sports gambling under the guise of financial commodities. Now, why does this matter? Unregulated online prediction platforms bypass established laws, directly threatening tribal gaming revenues that fund healthcare, housing, public safety, and education across Indian country. And why this matters to sovereignty: circumventing the Indian Gaming Regulatory Act and hard-won tribal state compacts chips away at negotiated tribal regulatory authority and economic self-reliance. As Chairman Macarro emphasized in his testimony, any federal framework that ignores Indian Gaming Regulatory Act tramples on tribal gaming rights. The opposition, commercial financial trading exchanges, argue that these prediction markets fall strictly under Commodity Futures Trading Commission financial regulations rather than state or tribal gaming law. And turning our attention north to Canada, according to Native News Online and CBC Indigenous, provincial tribal agricultural partnerships across Western Canada are expanding funding for Indigenous-led greenhouse projects and traditional harvesting operations. Now, why does this matter? This boosts local nutrition, slashes skyrocketing grocery prices in isolated communities, and revives traditional Indigenous agricultural methods. Now, why this matters to sovereignty: when tribes control their own food supply, they break dependence on outside supply chains and ensure community resilience during national crises. The opposition, non-native commercial agricultural lobbyists, they continue to argue against specialized water and land allocations for Indigenous farming enterprises. And in tribal workforce news this morning, according to the U.S. Department of Energy, Office of Indian Energy, the federal government is expanding its PACT initiative, Partnerships for Academic Industry Career Training, to fund hands-on tribal training programs across clean and traditional energy sectors. Now, why this matters: it creates high-paying technical jobs right on reservation land, allowing our young talent and families to stay rooted in their home communities. Now, why this matters to sovereignty: a highly skilled local workforce means tribal nations can design, build, and run their own utility grids without relying on outsiders. Now, the opposition, standard non-tribal vocational schools often push back when competitive federal workforce funding is directed toward tribal colleges and universities. Now for this morning's deep dive on tribal infrastructure. According to the U.S. Department of Energy's Office of Indian Energy, federal officials are spotlighting the deployment of community microgrids and distribution systems aimed at bringing off-grid energy independence to remote tribal housing and infrastructure. Now, why this matters: it ends chronic power outages in some rural Indian country areas throughout the United States, and it may help lower monthly energy bills for residents. So again, continuously trying to follow that story as we continue on. Now, shifting gears to Native sports and media. First, in sports, according to Native News Online, summer regional all-Native youth basketball and lacrosse tournaments across Southwest and Upper Midwest are coming to a close, acting as a major showcase for college recruiters. Why this matters: it promotes youth health, cultural pride, and opens athletic college scholarship pathways. So I'm hoping that as we continue on, that more of our youth can continue to go into basketball and lacrosse and other ways to get into college. Now, next in culture, according to Indian Country Today, Native writers and directors are rallying to expand sovereign film tax incentives and establish tribal film commissions to bring major film productions directly onto tribal lands. Now, why this matters: it generates massive local economic revenue and ensures accurate, authentic Native storytelling. And why that matters to sovereignty: it asserts tribal intellectual property rights and protects media self-representation. The opposition, state film offices sometimes resist, competing against sovereign tribal film tax credits. All right, according to the National Weather Service, we're turning our attention to weather, and also according to Environment and Climate Change Canada, severe weather is threatening several tribal regions today. In the U.S. Southwest, extreme heat warnings remain in place across Southern California, Arizona, and New Mexico, with afternoon monsoons creating high flash flood risks on tribal roads. In Northern Plains and Upper Midwest, severe evening storms with damaging winds threaten reservation communities across the Dakotas and Minnesota. And up in Canada, wildfire smoke and dry lightning alerts still remain active near multiple First Nations in the Prairie provinces and interior British Columbia. We're also following wildfire in near Spokane, Washington, where a lot of people from the city of Spokane have actually been evacuated. We'll continue to monitor that this week and hope that everybody gets into some safe spaces. All right, before I wrap up this morning, here are two major upcoming events tribal leaders and staff should mark their calendars for. The Tribal Microgrids and Distribution Infrastructure webinar, hosted by the Department of Energy Office of Indian Energy, focuses on strategies for off-grid energy independence, and the National Congress of American Indians Regional Summits, hosted by NCAI, covers federal trust responsibilities, Section 106 consultation overhauls, and gaming protections. All right, everybody, that wraps up your briefing for today, Wednesday, August 5th, 2026. Remember, sovereignty isn't just a legal concept. It is lived, exercised, and defended every single day. If this report brings you any kind of value, or please like, share, and subscribe. Please remember to leave me a review wherever you listen to your podcast. It helps me ensure that Native Voices and tribal reporting reaches the audiences that need it the most. I'm Aaron Thomas, Haw-hit-ton. Stay strong, stand strong, protect the land, and I'll see you back again tomorrow morning for another daily Tribal Sovereignty Report.